Ooh. Did somebody break the light bulb? No, anyway. Thank you, guys. Thank you again, Katrina, for your light that you've been shining here for 10 years now. Yes? Yeah. She was only 18 when she started here. But anyway, yeah, I know. I'm not telling you. I know. I just want to give people a benefit of the doubt. But anyway, we started a series a couple of weeks ago. Patty Bittner really started off Daring Greatly. It's based on Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And it's a powerful book and a powerful message in it. Patty started off by talking about Daring Greatly, and boy, did she have a story to tell. Somebody who spent 30 years in the Presbyterian ministry is now becoming and has become a unity minister. That's a little bit of a transition, and it took a lot of courage, and it took the ability to doubt openly and to be vulnerable, to even make mistakes maybe. And we're so blessed to have her here as an intern here at Unity of Richmond for the next couple of months left now. I don't know what we're going to do when she leaves. I don't know who I'm going to turn to say, please do this, but we'll find somebody. And anyway, she's done a great job. Last week we talked about this idea of living wholeheartedly, to live from the heart, to see the world from the heart, to see good, to see opportunity, to be willing to step into that opportunity, to take some risk. And what Brene Brown says is that in order to do that, we have to really kind of look at the mirror of our life. That as we look in the mirror of life itself, as we are willing to look at our screen of life, if you would, that we're living in, the world we're living in, and what we're creating, that we start to look at ourselves and start to understand areas in which we can grow more, areas in which we might have become trapped and not even aware of it, so that we can become more and more wholeheartedly, more and more having the ability to dare greatly. Now, I don't know about you, but I have somewhat of a love-hate relationship with computers, especially when they give me the message, not enough storage, not enough for your operating system, not enough memory. And then when I get that, and it's always when I'm getting ready to print something out that I really need right in that moment. So I figure the computer world is conspiring against me. I know better than that. But I start to see this message not enough. And if I'm not careful, I can carry that message throughout the day of not enough. I then transfer that message over to not enough of this or not enough of that, as Vicki said earlier. And I can live in the world of not enough. Or I can choose to live in the world where there's more than enough, where there is plenty, where there is an abundance. But to get there, I have to kind of understand the culture that I live in today. And Brene Brown says that like a computer, we have a virus. And that virus will corrupt our computer. And to fix our computer, when it says it doesn't have enough memory or enough storage or whatever, sometimes we got to go in and clean that virus out. But we have to admit it's there. We can't just turn the computer off and think it's going to go somewhere. And so as we do that, we start to look at ourselves and say, what kind of virus maybe is living within me at times? There's also an advanced way of creating a solution to there's not enough memory or enough storage. And it says, start your computer and log on as administrator. Now, that's easier said than done. I've tried to log on as administrator. And it asked me for a password. And if I don't know that password, I don't know who the administrator is. And so I play around with that for half an hour. And then it says click the start button, then select all programs, accessories, system tools, and then click system restore. That's a kind of new thing, right? We can restore the system we were working with. And I can get there pretty quickly. But I may still have the virus on my computer, so I need some software to take care of that, even though I already have 4 antivirus programs on my computer. This is the newest virus that's come out maybe, okay? So again, we start this day off, and what I would say is that we have a virus of scarcity in our country. We have a society that, and this is different. This wasn't true in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s even. It's come about in the last 15 years that more people think there's not enough than think there is enough. And Brene Brown says there's some reasons for that. That first of all, we understand the word scarcity, that it comes from the Norman French word, which came in around 1830, or 1300, and it meant a restriction of quantity. The word was scars. Now we use scar differently, but it is instead a restriction of quantity comes scarcity. She also says that we're not totally aware sometimes of what's happened to our society, to each of us, in the last, say, 15 years. For example, we had 9/11, which we had remembrance for last week. That was a traumatic experience. We've had school shootings. Something when I was in elementary school or high school would not even come into my mind and didn't happen. If it did, we didn't know anything about it. We've had terrorist attacks. We've had financial collapse in 2008, close to the Great Depression. We've had a rise in cost of living versus a leveling or decrease in income, and we all have created this virus, if you would, the world has, the virus of scarcity. She says that we have a post-traumatic stress syndrome that's called not enough. Not enough. That's how we deal with it. And you know, when we feel like there's not enough, then we get angry. When we feel like there's not enough, it's because we're comparing to other people. When we feel like there's not enough, we're saying, I'm not good enough. And then I start to think I'm not good if I'm not careful, if I buy into that idea. Now, I know most of you don't buy into it, but maybe a few of you do from time to time. Maybe all of us do in a given situation, like when you turn your computer on, okay, and it says not enough memory. But basically, what we can do is look at how do we eliminate this virus? How do we get rid of this virus in our lives so that we live with a prosperity consciousness? An idea that there's more than enough again. As Jesus said, I have come to share life with you and to teach you how to live life abundantly. That is not a word that conjures up to me scarcity. It is not a word that comes to me lack. To live life abundantly. And what we need to do is understand how we go about that. And one of the things that gets in the way of living life abundantly, especially if we are emotionally charged in a negative way, is that we are not willing to be vulnerable. And there's some myths about vulnerability, and what I'm talking about is not willing to take a risk. Want to make sure you got everything that you've had and keep it. The idea that others are maybe against me, that I can't trust other people. Brene Brown says that happens in the 3rd grade, by the way. You go to school and as a child in 3rd grade and you tell either Jimmy Brown or Sally Brown, those are made-up names, a secret about yourself. And Sally or little Jimmy go tell the whole class. And then all of a sudden everybody's talking about you. And that's the first place where you start to learn I cannot trust other people. Sometimes our family systems are built to teach us not to trust other people. And when we don't trust other people, we're not willing to be vulnerable. We're not willing to step out and take that risk, to take that chance. We also think that vulnerability many times means weakness, when actually it means courage. You see, to be vulnerable means that I'm willing to open my heart, my mind, and my thoughts in a positive way with others. Even though I may get constructive criticism, even though I may get criticism, even though they may disagree with me, I'm still willing to share the idea. What we learn to do it properly is who we can trust and who we cannot trust. Who is the person who's going to be supporting us in looking at this situation, this idea, this dream, and who is the person who is going to always be the naysayer? I don't want to share with a naysayer. I would like to share with somebody who is authentic, who would tell me this is not a good idea because, or have you considered these issues, so that I expand my thinking as I look at a new idea. But who also says, if you want it to happen and it's the right thing, it's the thing to do. And so we look for people who will support us, and vulnerability, again, is not a weakness. We also think when we're not vulnerable, we're more in control. You see, we don't have to take that risk. We're more in control of our lives. We got it all laid out. And the more perfectionist I become, the better life is. And what happens is that we create unbelievable stress when we feel that way. When we believe, in essence, that vulnerability means that I am not in control, so therefore I'm in trouble. It's okay not to be in control at times. Matter of fact, if you want to live through spirit, your life is not controlled. Because from moment to moment, day to day, year to year, things can change, and spirit guides you in such a way that you had no idea that you would be where you are. Most of you know this, but the last place I wanted to be when I came out of seminary was Richmond, Virginia. I had lived here for 3 years, and I had enough of Richmond, Virginia. And Richmond, Virginia, I figured had enough of me. But my wife suggested that we apply here. And we had made this silly agreement that if one of us wanted to apply at any given church, we both would apply. It was a great agreement, by the way, because we came to Richmond because of it, and it's where we belonged. And it's been a healing process for me, an opportunity to be vulnerable, an opportunity to look at myself in the mirror and say, am I still who I was when I was here in 89 through 91? And I'm not. And so we were willing to step out, if you would say, in not in control particularly, but vulnerable and take a risk. So we also think when we are vulnerable that we can go it alone. You know, we can take care of it. And folks, everything in the Course in Miracles, everything Unity teaches is that we're here to develop relationships, to work through those relationships, to grow in those relationships, and to understand that everybody is divine, everybody is spiritual. Everybody. Not just my best friends. Not just the people who agree with me. And so as I step into that understanding that I cannot go it alone, I need to be with people of a like mind. Not people who agree with everything I say, but people who are willing to discuss it. People who are willing to honor my thoughts, honor my doubts, honor my differences. And when I do that, I'm no longer vulnerable. I'm sorry, I am vulnerable. Got it backwards. When I'm willing to do that, I become vulnerable. And it's in that vulnerability that I start to change and have the courage to change that which the world says I should be. And how do we do that? Well, there are a couple ways. And one is if we use programs and software to create and fix a computer, then we need to do the same things with ourselves. What is the software? What are the plans? How do I cure this issue if I believe that I am living in a world of not enough? Or if any part of me believes that any part of the world I live in is not enough? How do I step into that? And the first thing is that we have to have faith. Now, faith is, in Unity we teach it, faith is a power that we innately all have. We all have faith. We have plenty of faith. Our job is to recognize that and direct our faith. Now, Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said that faith is the power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. Today we would say shape energy. You and I have the power to shape energy. I have been a lover of Napoleon Hill since the late 60s, especially Think and Grow Rich. It was like a Bible for me in my business for a while. One of the stories I remember is that Napoleon Hill was told when his son was born that his son was deaf and would never hear a word he said. And Napoleon Hill listened to the physicians because what had happened is his son had been born without the bone that goes through and creates the ability to hear. I don't know what that bone's called. A hearing bone, I guess. But anyway, you look for that. So yeah, that's right. It's connected to your hip bone. Anyway, so what Napoleon Hill said to the doctor about his otherwise healthy baby who had this rare condition, what he says was that I respect your opinion, but I respond to a higher authority. I respect your opinion, but I refuse to accept the results. So what he did is, when he brought the baby home, he and Mom used to sit and whisper to this baby in his ear. As it got older, it would talk to the baby as though it could hear, or not a baby anymore, this toddler. By the time this baby was 6 years old, this baby had grown this bone in the ear for hearing, so that now this child could have a 60% hearing capacity. The doctors said it was impossible. They couldn't explain it. You see, when we have the faith of believing in what can happen, when we step into believing what we are seeing what we believe, that is not a lack consciousness, that's a prosperity consciousness. Prosperity consciousness affects our health, it affects our financial status, it affects relationships. It's not just money. Please understand that. It is living in a knowledge and knowing that there is more than enough and that we even have the ability to live in the overflow. I respect your opinion, but I respond to a higher authority. So when something comes up in your mind that says no, when it ought to be yes, when somebody tells you you can't do something that you really feel pulled, driven to do, just simply say, I respect your opinion, but I respond to a higher authority. Now, one of the things I want to do is bring Moses into this discussion. And the reason I do is because of the fact that I want you to remember about Moses. You know, he went out in the desert. This was his second 40 years. And while he was in the desert, he ran into a burning bush. And worse than that, the burning bush started talking to him. And he had a discussion with the burning bush about going back to Egypt and bringing the people out of bondage. And you and I, when we listen, can release ourselves from this bondage, this scarcity message. And as we do, we start to hear what God said to Moses. God did not say, Moses, my name is I will be or I want to be. Not at all. What Moses heard, and I believe it was internally, that he heard, I am that I am. Today in New Thought and spirituality, we say it even more. We say, I am because thou art. There is this creator, this universe. And I am because thou art. And thou art because I am. And that says, thou art because I am the light, I am the expression of God in the world. And we feel that amongst each other, and we share that together. And the more we share it, the brighter the light. What happened is that we were given a legacy of the I am, the Christ consciousness, that aspect of our beingness that gives us the power, the opportunity, the belief in ourselves, where we become wholehearted, where we're willing to serve, where we're willing to take a risk, where we're willing to say yes when maybe the rest of the world is saying no. We're willing to think differently, and we're willing to use our faith to manifest a different way of being and allow our power of our imagination to take us where we want to be and where we need to be. Remember, when we use the power of imagination, it's like a daydream, except it's more. A daydream is kind of fleeting. Wouldn't it be nice? We do that when we compare. We do that when we want to get out of where we are, maybe, okay? But we don't go any further with it. Imagination says, I take a thought and create an idea. When I create that idea, I then step into that idea with feeling and with emotion. Even while it's still in my imagination, I feel it, I smell it, I touch it, I sense it, and I know it's going to happen. And what happens, it happens. It can be no other way. So we use the power of faith connected to that power of imagination, and we allow that imagination to take us where we understand and know is where Spirit wants us. Creation originates in the Word of Spirit, in the world of Spirit. And I ask you to remember that God is your source. And the source that God is within you. In Unity for years, we said, God is your source, and everything's hunky-dory, and I don't need to do anything about it. You know what that is? That's a throwback to the old belief that God is out there somewhere. God is our source because we are willing to step into the power that God is that lies within us and do something about something. We're willing to be actively acting out love itself in the world. We're willing to use our imaginations to create a new way and a new path. We're willing to use our faith so that we can literally change energy and bring it into being. And when we do that, we understand that what is within us is so powerful, so wonderful, that we don't have to worry about there's not enough. What we have to do is figure out how we're going to use everything that we are blessed with and step into the law of prosperity. Thank you. Okay.